Hi guys, I want to talk to you about Jamboard. Jamboard is an app that you have in your Google Drive, your Google Suite account, and it's a really simple tool to create quick activities for your students. If we talk about our beginner and low intermediate students and we look at that can do descriptor and talk about what it is that they can do, we know that they can match, label, sequence, they can identify familiar objects and familiar vocabulary. And so Jamboard lets you set up those types of activities really quickly. The first thing I want to point out is if you go to your Google Drive and you click on the waffle here, if you follow my cursor, you click on that up in the corner and you scroll all the way down, you should be able to find the app for Jamboard. It's already in your Google Drive, so it's not an extension. It doesn't require a sign-in. As long as the kids are in your Google Classroom, they'll be able to get any Jamboard activity you send to them. Okay, so once you click on it and you open it up, you will find yourself in your very first jam. They call it a jam. On the side here are some tools. There's a pen, an eraser, a cursor to select an object, a sticky note feature, a feature to add an image, and a laser. So if you were teaching a lesson, you could use the laser to point something out. Those are really the only features that are there. So it's pretty easy not to get lost. The first thing I want to show you is how you might use these features to create a vocabulary matching activity. I'm going to pull up this list of vocabulary from our middle school developmental language arts course. They're going to read a text called monster, and there is a list of some vocabulary words for the first couple pages that they think are important for the students to know. So I'm going to pick through here. I see the word grainy and the word trial. I'm going to go to my jam and add some sticky notes. All right, so you're going to click the sticky note in the menu. You're going to notice that it's color coded. So I'm going to do the word trial. And when I click save, it adds the note to my jam. And then I'm going to do grainy. I'm going to save it there. Okay. When I do a vocabulary matching activity, I like to color code it. So I like to have the vocabulary in one color, the definition in another. So I'm going to switch, and I'm going to put the definition of trial, which is a court case, and grainy, which was blurry, not clear. That was the definition on the list. So I'm going to do that. When I'm done adding all of my sticky notes that I want, I hit cancel. And then they appear on my jam. I can move them around, so I can add the green on one side, the yellow on the other. Now, because this is so simplistic, you can't change the font, you can't really do anything fancy with this sticky note. In fact, all you can really do is make it bigger or smaller. You can't even change the shape, but that's fine because it still works, right? The other thing to point out is when you want to add directions for your activity, that gets a little tricky. You can go to your sticky note and give it a clear background. You can say match each vocabulary word in yellow to the definition in green, right? And you can add that there. And that becomes another note, but you're going to see it's the same thing. It's a sticky note. So you can make it bigger, but it's, I guess it would depend on what you're working on. I don't super love the way it looks. So, but that is an option. Another option, if you want to get fancy with it, is you can go to a Word doc and create directions in there. So I might say directions. Vocabulary match. Match each vocabulary word. I will put that in yellow to the definition green. Match by sliding the squares together. Okay. And then, since this is yours in a Word doc, you can get a little fancy with it. You can change the font size. You can code it. Make that yellow. make the word green, green. And then what I do is I go to my snipping tool on my desktop here. I just type snipping. And then once I get that, I hit new and I snip it and then save it to the desktop. Okay. Save it. And then it now is an image that I have. And if I go back to my Jam, one of my options here is to add an image. So if I go to my upload and I can find it on my desktop, and then it'll add as a picture. So that's another option if you want to have like really clear directions. Really, the final option is just put the directions on your Google Classroom. So when you assign it, you can add the directions there. And that even has enough space that you can add it in multiple languages, or the kids can translate it themselves as well. So there's lots of ways to get the directions to the kids. What I've noticed is once they've done one, they know what to do. So it's pretty straightforward. So that's how I would do a plain vocabulary matching activity. If I want to get rid of something, I click on it and hit delete off my keyboard. If I want to get rid of the whole thing, I would clear my frame. In this case, I'm just going to get rid of the definitions, and instead I'm going to put pictures. So I have the word trial and grainy, and I'm going to go to add image. So this is another way to do it. I'm going to go to the Google image search. So I'll walk you through that again. So on this side menu, underneath the sticky notes, there's a section for add image. So I'm going to go there, do Google image search, and I'm going to search for a trial. From there, I can select it and add it to my Jam. Here, add another image of, I tried to search grainy before and it didn't really show up. So blurry, I'm going to select that one, put it here. Then I could add 8, 10 pictures and 8, 10 words, and the students could match it. This is also a really great way to label for like science classes, for different parts of parts of a plant or parts of a cell. You could upload the image of the plant and then have your post-it notes with the vocabulary words, and the students slide it over the picture where it goes. Because things can overlap, they can just put the images right on top of everything, which is kind of cool. Okay. So I'm going to clear that whole thing out. I'm going to show you just a couple more ideas that I have seen. So I have some other ones in my Google Drive to show you. Here is the final product of that vocab match from that middle school vocabulary. So I made the directions in and I screenshotted it about how to do a picture match. The students have these 8 images, and then they have the vocabulary word that they can use. And it's kind of cool. Kids can do it any way they wish, and you'll see that some of them do it like super methodical, and others kind of have it all over the place, but it's a fun way for them to play around with that vocabulary. There's a few more ideas. This one is healthy and unhealthy food, which is kind of cool, kind of neat. You'll see it says healthy foods and drinks, unhealthy foods and drinks. And then it has images down below for them to add. Here's some phonics ones for the students. You'll see on this one, the teacher actually took this pen and drew a line down the middle to help the students. You can use that pen. I just am not very good at it. It looks, but you can use the pen to draw things to make lines. So there's a phonics lesson. This is a literacy lesson, which divides it up into 4 pieces. Setting, characters, right? So you go and put the characters in there. The setting is the zoo. So the students could play around with it like that. And really, this saves just like a Google Doc. It looks exactly the same as your Google Documents would. Sorry, I'm trying to find my Google Classroom. So when you go to your Google Classroom and you assign it, you're going to assign it exactly the same way you would assign a Google Doc. So you're going to go to Create and hit Assignment, and then you would say vocabulary match or picture sort, whatever it is. You do your instructions here. Use the Jamboard to match pictures to the new vocabulary words. have fun. And then you might take this spot here, you might translate it into the languages of your students to make sure everybody knows what they're doing. And then here's the really important part. Remember, when we add things for our students, we want to make sure to change this to make a copy for each student. That's really important, because that if you make a copy for each student, then that means each student has their own board that they can manipulate. The thing that's really cool is our students have Chromebooks right now, so they can actually touch the screen and move it around with their finger, which is a little more interactive and fun for them. So you would make a copy for each student and then assign it. So I hope that you open up this app and give it a try, see what you can do with it. I think it's super easy for teachers to get started with, really easy for kids to play around with, and it's something